Hello and welcome to this new tutorial series on how to stylize an entire scene. We have this scene here from the short film Run Totti Run, and it actually has an entire city also loaded in. So you can see once the atmosphere effects start to kick in, this goes quite far up. So this is a good example of a production scene. And something that's also relevant in this tutorial is that we're working with references, and there's certain things that you need to take into account when working with references. So with that, let's get started. So the first thing when working with references that you want to do is to dereference the materials in the scene. As this scene has materials that are referenced as well, we need to make them local to this scene so that they save with the scene. Otherwise, things that you change here, for example in the settings, they won't be saved with the reference edits. So it's very important to do this step. So in order to force an update, it's very easy. You just select one object with a reference material, open up the paint effects, and once you're here, if you click on any paint effect, it will prompt you reference materials. Reference shader effects materials may not save correctly. Do you wish to convert them to local materials instead? So this is very important because otherwise they won't save properly with the scene. So you need to click here on Yes, Convert All. This will take a while, but once this is done, you should be good to go. Alright, now the materials in the scene have been dereferenced. So as you can see here, if I select the material here, you're going to see this is a local material. It's not grayed out anymore. But however, you will notice that this is white. And this is happening because these materials were set up, the entire scene was set up with an older version of MNPRX, which uses the 1.63 version of the material. Now, since the release of the February 2020 version of MNPRX, we're working with 1.8 versions of materials. So to fix this, we need to update the materials in the scene. This is something that you only need to do once in a while when there's a new MNPRX update, but this is also seamless and should work without any issues. Once this is finished and all 168 materials have been updated, you will see the color coming back, and all of the materials in the scene will have the 1.8 version of the graph. So now that we have this, we have everything pretty much ready. So you will notice that there's a lot of, in this case, there's a lot of materials and objects that already have a shader effects material. This is great, but you will notice that a lot of these objects here also have the Maya Lambert material. So we'll need to address that in the next tutorial. Now, something also important that I want to emphasize when working with references is that you will need to also export the stylization as well. It's not enough to just save the scene, but you also need to export the stylization. Doing that is very simple. You simply click on Export, go to the folder where you want to save this, and I'm going to save this as 01. It will automatically grab all of the materials and save them, and also save all the stylization that you've made. Now it's important to highlight that this will only export the things that you have checked here. Otherwise it will simply either fail if you have nothing selected or just export the selected settings here. Now something that I also want to emphasize is that there's different ways to work. If you work with references, you will need to export everything. However, you can convert this all to local, like import your references in, and that means that everything that you do will be saved with the scene. The problem is that reference edits don't necessarily save changes to geometry like paint effects or settings in the material, so it's important to have that into account when you're working with a lot of references. The other way to go about this is to also convert the entire animation to Alembic, and this will then save with the scene as well. So these are just different workflows. But for demonstration purposes, we're going to work with the full references here, and we're going to work with the MNPRX toolbox with the import and export tools here. And that's it. In the next tutorial, we're going to prepare the entire scene for stylization. because at the end of the day, the scene needs to look something like this. This is our color key, so we're gonna make this 3D scene come as close as possible within the viewport to this result. That's it. Subscribe to learn more about MNPRX and click the bell button to be notified about future tutorials.